Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Mita Speaks, where creativity takes center stage. I'm your host, Stephanie, and today we're diving into a really exciting topic. Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody. Now, if you've been writing for any amount of time, you've probably heard of Save the Cat. But today, we're going to break it down and set the stage for something really special. Over the next 15 episodes, I'll be walking you through each beat of Save the Cat beat sheet, starting next week with the first beat, the opening image. So if you're ready to take your storytelling to the next level, make sure you stick around and come back each week for a new episode. Now, before we get into all that, let's talk a bit about what Save the Cat is and why it's such a game changer for writers. Save the Cat originally started as a screenwriting book written by Blake Snyder. It's been incredibly influential in the world of movies and TV shows because it breaks down storytelling into beats, a series of key moments that every story should hit. Snyder's idea was that every great story, no matter the genre, follows a particular structure that keeps the audience engaged. His book was meant for screenwriters, but it became so popular that Jessica Brody took the core ideas and adapted them for novelists in Save the Cat Writes a Novel. Now, this book has become one of the go-to resources for writers because it offers a clear, practical guide to structuring a story. So what makes Save the Cat different from other outlining methods is how it focuses on emotional beats, those moments that really pull your readers in and keep them turning the page. It's less about planning every detail in advance and more about hitting the right moments at the right time. So what exactly is a beat sheet? In simple terms, it's a roadmap for your story. It's broken down into specific beats, moments in your novel where something crucial happens. These beats help guide the story's emotional arc, and it gives you a structure to follow without locking you into a rigid outline. In Save the Cat Writes a Novel, Jessica Brody lays out 15 key beats that every story should have. So here's the cool part. The beats are flexible. You can adapt them to fit any genre or style of writing. If you're more of a pantser, someone who likes to fly by the seat of their pants and discover the story as they go, you can still use the beat sheet to make sure your story stays on track emotionally. If you're a plotter, you can map out each beat in detail before you even start writing. Either way, Save the Cat helps you shape a well-paced, emotionally compelling narrative. Now, it's different from traditional outlining because it focuses on the emotional and narrative high points rather than getting bogged down in scene-by-scene planning. So if you've ever felt like traditional outlines are too restrictive, the Save the Cat beat sheet might be the perfect balance between planning and spontaneity. So over the next 15 episodes, we're going to go beat by beat, starting with the first one, the opening image. This is where you set the tone of your novel and introduce your protagonists in their world before everything changes. It's the foundation for everything that follows, and we're going to break it down in detail next week. We'll be looking at how you can craft an engaging opening image that grabs your reader's attention and hints at the journey your character is about to go on. And here's the fun part. I'm going to use examples from my own story, Elementals, to show you how I applied these beats for each of my characters. So speaking of Elementals, here's a little preview of what I've been working on. Elementals is a story with 4 equally important protagonists, and I actually created 4 different Save the Cat beat sheets, one for each character. Each of these characters have their own arc, their own journey, and therefore their own beats. So if you follow along with Save the Cat, you'll get to see how these beats work, not just for one protagonist, but for multiple main characters in the same story. If you want to follow along as we go through each beat, you can check out Elementals on Kindle Vella by searching for Elementals by S.C. Lauren. The first 4 episodes are free, and they include the opening images for each of the 4 main characters. These scenes will give you a clear reference point for when we dive into the opening image beat next week. So I highly recommend reading them before the next episode. You'll be able to see how I set the tone for each protagonist and where their journeys begin. So why did I create 4 different beat sheets for elementals? Well, because each character has their own emotional arc and journey, and I needed to make sure that all of their stories were compelling on their own, but also interconnected. The Save the Cat beat sheet allowed me to structure each character's story individually while making sure they all fit together in the larger plot. That's one of the beauties of this system. It's flexible enough to work with multiple protagonists and subplots. So if you're working on a novel with multiple main characters, Save the Cat can help you juggle those different storylines without losing focus. And if you're writing a single protagonist story, it's an amazing way to make sure your character's journey is emotionally engaging and well-paced. That wraps up today's episode. Next week, we'll be diving into the first beat in the Save the Cat beat sheet, the opening image. Remember to read episodes 1 through 4 of Elementals on Kindle Vella so you can follow along as I break down how each character's opening image sets the stage for their journey. And if you want more updates on Elementals or future episodes of Mita Speaks, make sure to follow me on Instagram at s.c.lauren, SC I post behind-the-scenes looks at my writing process, updates on new episodes, and a lot more. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm really excited to take this journey through Save the Cat Writes a Novel with all of you, and I can't wait to dive into the opening image beat next week. Until then, this is Stephanie with Mita Speaks, where creativity takes center stage. Keep writing, keep dreaming, and remember, your story matters.
This is MJ Graham with Columbus Road Dragons, your home for Road Dragons hockey. Noonan 99 Rocks.
You're walking, shopping, or on your favorite trail. You get that feeling somebody's coming up on you. What do you do to be prepared in today's world? Hi, I'm Holly Reese. I'm the founder of Warrior Defenders. As a certified tactical self-defense instructor, I'm specializing in women's self-defense. All women of all ages have the ability to learn how to defend themselves effectively. With technical drills to build their survival skills, you can be your own hero. Classes and private seminars are available. Learn today to have a safer tomorrow. WarriorDefenders.com.
Hank Arnold here from Coweta Force. Coweta Force is Noonan's own addiction recovery support center. We exist to provide recovery support services for individuals and family members who have been impacted by addiction. Our services are no cost, and all of our information is available on our website at www.cowetaforce.org or follow us on Facebook.
Are you looking for a dog trainer with positive reinforcement to help you bond with your new furry friends, or to have customized training in your own home, or wonderful group classes? Check out Pits and Pals on their Facebook page. Rosemary has extensive certification in dog psychology, is an AKC certified evaluator, and Victoria Stillwell certified training team. Check out Pits and Pals Facebook for more information. Rosemary wants to remind you to adopt, don't shop. Save a life at Coweta County Shelter today.
Shopping for insurance doesn't have to be stressful. I'm Christy, owner of Ellsworth Insurance, located here in Newnan, Georgia. We're an independent agency with access to multiple carriers for home, auto, life, health, and commercial insurance. We're your one-stop shop for your insurance needs. www.insurewithellsworth.com, 770-755-7053. We look forward to meeting you soon.
The views and opinions of this show and program are not the views and opinions of this station, its management, or its clientele.
Good morning and welcome to Empower Strike Back. I'm your host, H.D. Reese on WQEE The Key, 99.1 FM with Warrior Defenders.
And today we are going to be talking about a lot of things that are happening for October. I want to thank all of my sponsors today, Coweta Force, and of course SC Lauren with Me to Speaks, and Pits and Pals, working with Hearts and Homes to adopt, don't shop. And I'm going to share the pet of the week. He is absolutely cute. And if you want to go check him out, he's at the Coweta County Shelter off Selt Road. His name is Winston, and he is a younger boy that is on a list for euthanization. And unfortunately, in Coweta County, we have a large list of dogs that are not going to make it out alive by October 8th at 5 p.m. So if you're looking to adopt and not shop and add a sweet boy to your family, come out and see him. He needs a home without children. He's a little scared of kids and littles, and a peaceful place with patience to decompress from the life that he's had. He has the cutest little ears, and he's not very big. He's kind of one of those short bullies, so check him out over at the Coweta County Shelter, and there are 19 wonderful dogs to choose from over there. So check them out, and this message is sponsored by Pits and Pals for Hearts and Homes Rescue, and you can check out both those pages, Pits and Pals at Facebook and heartsandhomesrescue.org online, for all the babies that are looking for homes to be adopted. So October is a very special month for me and a lot of people that are close to the organization at Warrior Defenders, because it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And there's a lot of things that are aware for October, along with Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I learned recently Disability Awareness Month as well. But October, with the purple and pink ribbons for women's empowerment, is Domestic Violence Awareness. And what does that mean? Well, a lot of people really don't understand domestic violence. And as a survivor, a lot of questions I get is from the community. Why don't people leave? Why do we stay? And all these things. So today, I wanted to share a little bit about my story, which is also available in a published anthology called Going Beyond Your Programming of Your Life. My story is called Be Your Own Hero. So why do we need to be our own hero as a domestic violence survivor? Because there is not going to be anybody else that can save you from what is going on behind closed doors. And we want to break the silence of domestic violence in our communities. We want to make sure that the people who are suffering in silence have a place to be heard. And when it comes to being heard in a domestic violence relationship, did you know that it takes an average of 7 times for a woman to leave or a man to leave? It's not just women only, but the majority of it is women that suffer. 7 times before they'll leave, really leave, and take that step to file the restraining order and get into a shelter and take that seriously. Did you know that after they leave, that's when the fear of leaving happens? Because they've been told they can't do this by themselves. They're always going to need that person. When you're told something enough, it is going to completely change your mindset. You're going to think you're alone. Nobody cares. They tell you this over and over again. It's called gaslighting. And it's pretty prominent in that situation. There is a wheel of abuse that happens. And in that wheel, it can be good for a few days, bad for a few days, great, and then all the way back. So the wheel never changes. It just goes around and around and around. But when you're stuck in that circle, you fight as a victim of domestic violence. You fight depression. You fight the will to just keep things the way they are. You realize that nothing's going to change, but you don't know what to do about it because they've convinced you that you're alone. And a lot of times, because of the stigma in society, there's a fear of shame that the woman chose the wrong person, so they don't really want to come forward. They don't want to say, I need help because this is not getting better, or I've let him hurt me, and that's my fault. But I'm going to say this probably more than once in this broadcast today. Whatever has happened to you is not your fault. You should not be ashamed of being in the wrong relationship. You should not make a fake couple's goals pictures on social media and act like everything's okay. If you feel like you are in a relationship where you're not able to share the reality of what is going on in your life, you need to get away as fast as you can. And unfortunately, a lot of people try to get away and they don't. And this is the hardest time for when you've decided to leave. That's when things get dangerous. And I've talked to a lot of survivors over the years. One thing that survivors like to talk about is the day that they got away. Because that is the most impactful statement of stepping forward to be your own hero that you can make. So we have in domestic violence world, there is called a freedom date. And mine was September 1st, 2010. And that was the day that I finally took action, stepped away, got everything under control to leave. The police got involved and all of that. And that was the day that I made the decision to be my own hero. Now, was that the last? Is that it? Is that all that happens from that point? No. That's when the fight actually really starts, because then it goes through the courts, and then it goes through, you have to testify, and then it takes a lot of, they're not going to let you leave, so they keep trying to get back in touch with you. So these things, that's when it gets hard. And when it gets hard, we all know that we like to take the easier path. But that's when you need somebody to stand beside you, stand next to you, help you realize this is not the easier path. That's when you realize that those things that you couldn't do when they were around, that you can now do that day. So one of my favorite songs that has just come out is I Can Buy Myself Flowers. So when I'm talking to survivors, I tell them, what couldn't you do before? What can you do now? Go do that today. Go do something that builds you up to keep the fight going forward, because it's not going to be over next week. Courts don't move that fast. And unfortunately, you have to build yourself up to get through that court. So when you go and you file a restraining order, then they go and start talking to you, violating the restraining order sometimes, telling you life will be easier. You realize you're going to have to do some things on your own that you really didn't know how to do. You realize you're going to have to fight to keep that restraining order in place. And then if you do try to not fight, then you're not going to make it through the restraining order. Everything goes down. You start back over again. You go back to them, and that's the cycle. The other thing is you've gotten used to the daily conversations and conflicts. Your body does not know how to go from the fight and flight and freeze response to normal. Because we all know domestic violence and unhealthy relationships are not normal. And your body gets used to that not normal and doesn't know how to react to normal. When you finally realize what normal is, it's going to take a few months. In that process, you're going through something called a withdrawal from your real life that you had to all this new stuff that you do. And that gives you a withdrawal of, just like a person you've broken up with, you withdraw from that person and you try to remember the good days and make it all justifiable when it's not justifiable the way you were treated. And when I left, I had PTSD and Stockholm Syndrome. So I was really not aware of what was bad that had happened. So it took quite a while for me to let go mentally to realize what my future could be. And when you're fighting inside your own mind to be able to have a better life, you really have to realize that you're not alone. You are not alone out there. And I will tell everybody that needs anything to learn how to get over this realization of the new reality to contact me at Warrior Defenders, because this is something that I've lived through, I understand, and I know that this part is difficult. But unfortunately, a lot of people think that domestic violence is also a physical violence only. It is not. It is a mix of all kinds of levels. There is emotional. There's financial abuse. There's using your children and your pets against you. So to say, you couldn't take care of your kids without me, I'll make sure that you don't see them ever again, and things like this. And with the gaslighting, that layers into everything that happens for your fear of not leaving. They'll threaten you with anything they can to keep you there. There's also religious trauma, sexual trauma. There is telling you that you can't do certain things. There's restricting you from being with your family. There's moving you away. And there are red flags of all of this in the regular, normal relationships versus a relationship with a narcissist or a domestic violence abuser. And believe it or not, a lot, not all, a lot of domestic violence abusers are narcissists who are attracted to people who care. And that is like and I mentioned this in my book, Going Beyond Your Programming story, it feels like there is a narcissist 101 book out there, because every one of them uses the same sentences and the same tactics to win over their victim. And it really does feel like they're taking a course, but they're not. It is that playbook that they use that's ingrained in their system that we fall for easily, because it's so subtle until it explodes. Just like if you're driving down the road and all of a sudden, you got the construction lines going here and there, and then they move the lane over, and every day it gets normal, and the lane keeps going over, and then eventually you forget how that road actually looked before they did the construction and finished it. So you're in this great relationship, and then all of a sudden you're just over there in a lane that you don't even know how you got into. When did this finish the construction? When did they open this new road? And you forget what your reality was before. And that's when you're now lost. When you get to that point, and then you realize, well, what am I supposed to do? Everybody thought my life was perfect. Well, it's not. So step up and learn to be your own hero by getting a plan in place. So, sometimes there isn't a plan, and sometimes there is. When you have littles, you have to make a plan. There's so many amazing movies out there that really depict domestic violence and survival the way it should be, and then others that are very fictional. One of the ones that I recommend people watch if they can is Maid, which is about a woman, and it was on Netflix, who didn't think she was in a domestic violence relationship, but she really was. She said, I've never been hit. Well, that doesn't matter. And she ended up realizing how her life was and why it was not normal, and then had to make a plan for her and her little girl. Another one that I really like is Enough, but that's not really based on reality. But it does show how you need to strengthen yourself inside to be able to fight back if you ever need to. We never want any of the girls that take my classes to ever have to use any of the self-defense tools that I teach. But it's always good, especially when you're leaving a domestic violence relationship, to build yourself up, to realize how to defend yourself. Because when I left, I had no idea how to defend myself. They gave me a piece of paper and they said, here's a piece of paper, it will not save your life, learn to defend yourself. At that point, my brain was, what? What are you talking about? I have no idea. So for 7 years, I stayed in my home unless I had my service dog with me or family members. So I felt trapped until I realized how to defend myself with non-lethal tools so that I could get away, because I would see him on a daily basis in town. And that was when I would freeze. So over the years, I learned how to defend myself. I learned that education was important. I learned how to be effective with the tools with drills. And I learned how to be a certified self-defense instructor. Because through those years, I had to build myself up. I couldn't be hugged by anybody. I didn't want to be around anybody. I couldn't talk about anything. And it was something that was internal that I had to find myself again. So while I was training as a self-defense instructor, I realized I was sharing my story with people, helping other women who have been empowered. And if you look around, the statistics are 1 in 3 women have been in a domestic violence or abusive relationship. And that needs to stop. We need to break that silence of domestic violence anywhere. Be that person that the person can talk to when they're ready to go. It's very difficult. And through the month of October, we're going to be discussing how you can be that person to help in your community or help your friend who you know is not in a good place. And it is heartbreaking to watch somebody go through that. I know that my family watched me go through that, and it was not easy, but I'm grateful that they were there for me, especially when everything was going crazy. A lot of the shelters are very full, so there also needs to be a plan in place to be able to get to a safe space. And with the month of October going on as well, we're going to be discussing where the safe places are. And through the month, we're also going to be sharing stories from survivors. So stay tuned for that, and how they felt now, back then, and how they feel now, so that we can build our relationships with everybody in our communities. So it was not an easy journey for me, and it was definitely not something I ever want anybody else to go through, but unfortunately there's too many of us that go through this. As a survivor, I like to help other women by sharing my story, to impact other people in our communities, to give them hope that there is a tomorrow after the days that they have had, to make sure that they realize that they are their own heroes now that they've left, to stick to it and they're not alone. Make new relationships, build a new future for yourself, and build yourself up to be able to survive. It was not an easy journey. Like I said, my date was 2010. For 7 years, I stayed home. 2017, I started doing the self-defense. To this day, it's countless the amount of women that I've talked to and watched them go from where they were to where they are now. Is amazing transformation to see. When I started my recovery with this, I started writing and journaling. If you're going through anything that stresses you out, please write and journal. You never know where that's going to come up. Because now, Life After Silence, book number 1, was a small inspiration of what I had gone through in a fictional world now. So it turned me into an author. So take your journeys of your survival and what you've been through. Build on that, build yourself. Learn today to have a safer tomorrow, to be your own hero, and speak against the silence. We'll need to break the silence of domestic violence for the month of October. This week, I will be at the Carnegie Library at 6 o'clock doing a presentation author panel with 2 other amazing authors from the Hometown Novels Association. So come on out and listen to our stories about how we developed our story, how we were inspired, how we finally got our books published, and hear about what's next in our author journey as well at the Carnegie Library on Thursday night at 6 o'clock. And I will see you there. And join us for the month of October for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Listen in on all the amazing guests and stories that we'll be sharing this month here on Empower Strike Back. I'm your host, H.D. Reese, on 99.1 FM, WQEE The Key, and we will see you next time on Empower Strike Back.